uh, a go-getter. She's on top of it. She's not afraid to get out there and meet people. You couldn't have a better candidate than Liz. She was in some of the demonstrations. She has her war wounds in terms of court summons, I believe. I don't know where that's at, for doing something that the totalitarian government of Ontario didn't want her to do. And so she's well versed in the issues around freedom of speech, freedom of association, and the other charter rights which have been sorely abrogated under the pretense of a pandemic. She's in Chatham. I'm not in Chatham, so I will confess to having grown up in Chatham, gone to school there, but that's my only experience with it. Beyond that, I won't say anything more. I'd be happy to turn it over to Liz to introduce herself a bit more. And if it's okay with Rick and Nick, I don't know if Nick is going to moderate.
I think Nick should moderate since the technical difficulties during the last broadcast sort of cut him a little bit short. So yeah, Nick, why don't you take the lead on that?
I do whatever.
Yeah, and he owes me for that one too.
That's right. Yeah, because I had to bail to Ian before. Yes, Liz is, in my opinion, probably one of the better candidate choices that we have in the entire Ontario PPC committee. She's been out there. She's been doing everything. She's followed in Maxime Bernier's footsteps, as it were, by dealing with public authority and things of that nature. And I think it would be really nice, Liz, if you could just introduce yourself to everybody. If people we'd prefer that you mute your mics right now, and that way, Liz, you have the floor.
Well, thank you guys. Man, you make me sound really great. I wish you guys were with me all the time so I could just have all of those compliments all the time around me. That's awesome. So hello, everybody, and thank you for coming tonight. I loved the email that Rick sent out. It made everything sound so exciting and dramatic and all of that, but it actually is. So first I'll introduce myself. My name is Liz Vallee. I am your candidate for the riding of Chatham-Kent-Leamington, representing the People's Party of Canada. So I'm just going to say a few things and then we will get into discussion. The reason why Rick wanted to do this, I think you could probably get the gist of it from the email. We all know that there could be an election called at any time. And I think it's really important that we gather as a group of like-minded individuals and chat. So I want to start by expressing a really important message, and the main message I've been trying to get across for quite some time now. And I would like to really reiterate the fact that we need to stay focused on this one important message. That main important message is freedom. We need to stay focused on that. There are so many distractions that pull us everywhere. Let's stay focused on freedom. Why? Freedom is kind of how I got started in this. I was actually protesting against the lockdowns, which ties into freedom itself. I did not like seeing our businesses hurting, our people hurting, people out of jobs, depressed, all of those things. I was fed up. I went out, protested by myself with my 11-year-old son, and then it kind of snowballed from there. Started off with the lockdowns, went into the subject of freedom. Why freedom? Well, it's the number one. If we don't have freedom, we have nothing.
Amen.
Literally. If you don't have freedom, All other issues are moot. It's a moot point because now you don't have freedom of expression to even express that you're concerned with an issue. You just might as well be a slave to the government and follow along and do as you're told. So again, without freedom, we have nothing. A couple of subjects that I would like to bring up that I feel right now is really kind of falling on us and crunching us. Huge concern is our economy. The way that the Trudeau government and the Liberals are just printing money, causing inflation, causing the housing market to be out of control. Everything that you're trying to buy right now, your groceries, anything to do home improvements, all of those things, the prices have gone up dramatically and people aren't able to afford the basic necessities at this point. The cost of living is out of control. And for people who are already struggling, this is a huge issue. And it's snowballing into a lot of suffering and a lot of hurt. So we really need to address that. Essentially, the Trudeau government and the Liberals have failed us. Our Member of Parliament, Dave Epp, has failed us. He has failed us by his inaction. Where was he through all of this? Did he stand up and say, we need to open these businesses again. We need to end these lockdowns? No, no other party is doing that. No other party has done that. They all just followed along and towed their party line. Nobody was brave enough to, well, that's not true. There were some, we saw what happened to the ones that actually stood up. So we need change. Right now, all of those parties, they're all the same. They're all the same. You can vote Liberal, you can vote Liberal Light, or you can actually create some change and vote for the People's Party of Canada. Maxime Bernier is the only federal leader to actually stand up for freedom and specifically come out and say, end the lockdowns. He's the only one. He went to jail for us. Yeah, so no lockdowns, no segregation, no show me your papers state, please. So yeah, if they want to bring on an election, I say bring it. I'm not scared, I'm ready. So Liz Valley, PPC strong and free. Free. We need to stay focused on that, guys. Okay. Now, I have a question and we can start getting into discussion and Nick will moderate as we go along, but I'm going to start with the first question. And for those of you who have a camera, perhaps you could raise your hand if you want to answer the question, or maybe you can throw it in the chat that you would like to answer the question. And we could probably have a few people answer this one, but I'm really interested. Which People's Party of Canada platform policy means the most to you, is the most important to you right now, and why? Let's talk about it. Who wants to answer?
So the question is, what point in our platform do you feel is the most important to you at this particular time? Liz brought up a number of good ones. The economy, we all know that Justin Trudeau, it's now been determined he cannot balance the budget until at least 2070 with the way he's going. That fact that's been put out there. I'll be long gone by then. I know a few of us might not be here. Ian's going to live forever. I know that. But that's just a fact. So Liz has brought up freedom, the response to the pandemic by the other parties. The only person who's actually responded to the pandemic is Maxime Bernier. The economy, Line 5, and our natural resources industries is a big part of our platform, pipelines. no segregation, no vaccine passports, things like that. We already know what the response is to the negotiations for the border crossing. If you're double vaccinated in the States, you can come into Canada and do whatever you want. If you're double vaccinated from Canada, you can't go to the States until the 21st. So how is our diplomatic relations, thanks to Justin Trudeau, with other countries? What are some of the points you think are extremely important? We'll take your points right now.
I think all of your platforms are important. Church is important. No vaccine passports is important. And opening up the economy again is important. Everybody is essential.
Very, very good. Thanks, Sharon.
Wow.
Rick, you had a point?
For me?
Yeah, I thought you did.
No, I'm just trying to invite somebody to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Liz, your response to Sharon's comment, please.
Well, I definitely agree with you. What stands out to you the most, Sharon? Like, has there been something that has affected you? Let's even say in the last 16 to 18 months. Is there something specific that has affected you along this way that you're concerned about?
Pretty much the whole situation. I mean, I'm retired. Okay, I don't have to work. But I have a heart for all these people who have had to close their businesses. They need to be open. I have a heart for all these people who don't want to be vaccinated. They should not be forced to be vaccinated. We have a right to make up our own mind. Everything that Max Bernier speaks about resonates with me. So consequently, well, that's why I joined the PPC. I heard Max speak on a video ages and ages and ages ago. He hadn't even entered into this, and probably about 8 months ago, and I started posting what he had said back then, and just to put his name out there before Derek Sloan or anybody else even started to stand up in any way small, because everything Max said at that time made sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like when he's speaking,
basically, pardon?
I was going to say, I feel like when he's speaking, I feel like it's coming right out of my own heart, right out of my own brain. You know, I feel like we're on the same level in almost every single way. You know, when he speaks, it's bang on, and the message is bang on, and you know, it's very simple when it comes down to it. Again, for me, it keeps swinging back to freedom.
Well, I'm a freedom fighter. I've been fighting this all along since, to be honest with you, I started fighting real hard over the internet. I've been blocked from Facebook. I'm on every other platform to keep the words out that I want out. I'm on MeWe, Locals Informed, Gab, all kinds of other platforms, because I mean, when it started out with Donald Trump, the vaccines weren't even out, and he got the virus. So what did they do? They give him how do you say it? Hydroxychloroquine.
Chloroquine.
Hydroxychloroquine. And then I started hearing more stuff. Then I started seeing reports of adverse effects from the vaccine. I've seen so many things, and I've tried to open other people's eyes to it to see what's going on. And yeah, it's all wrong. And the other thing was, shortly after they had the first lockdown, and that's a year ago, okay? Mm-hmm. When they started saying, you know, these people were non-essential. I got my back right up. I worked till I was 72. So working is healthy. Since all of this has taken place, it's caused a lot of mental illness. For me, I ended up putting on a lot of weight. I went to fitness twice a week. Everything got closed down. Church was closed down. The life I started to make in this town after I moved here, not knowing a soul, ended because of the tyrannical governmental moves that they've been making. And I don't believe they were all necessary at all. And so when Max, he came out again now 5 months ago and started saying exactly how he felt, I thought, I'm with him. And that was it. So.
Thanks very much, Sharon. That was
I have a question for Liz.
Sure, go ahead. Yep.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Raman. Nice to meet you all. Last time I voted for Maxine, PPC, last election, and I'm glad that he got so many votes for the first time he ran. And he wasn't really prepared for it, for such a large-scale election. So he got really good votes. I wish if PPC can locally be more active, which is, I think I've seen it recently, being more active locally. I hope you excuse my accent. I'm an immigrant. I immigrated to Canada a long time ago, maybe 18 years ago, from a country who's seen dictatorship. And now I see it happening here.
Yeah.
So it really tear my heart when I see what's happening.
Where are you from originally, Raman?
I'm from Iraq. We are like a small minority in Iraq, a Christian minority. So we've seen all kind of dark ages there as a minority. Yeah. So what I'm seeing here, it's kind of repeating. The history is repeating, especially against Christians, like all the church burning and all that. Yeah, it is really sad. And I don't know where else we can go as immigrants. Like, this is it. This is Canada, and this is my home for my kids too. And,
I love the fact you say that.
Yeah.
This is your home for you and your kids. I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It is my home now. I don't ever think that I will ever go back. I don't think that's going to happen. I have 4 kids, and I'm really worried about their future here, especially with the lockdown, with school closure. They've been on and off. I don't know how many times. I know you're a federal candidate, which is great. I don't know how much effect that will, could you do locally, or at least in Ontario? If you can expand on that.
Sure. How can I put this? So I'm a mom as well. I don't know if you've followed me at all on social media or anything like that. I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. And the way I feel about this personally is I started all of this because I was tired of what was going on, right? Part of that did have to do with the education system.
Yeah.
It's not fair to the children to be having school online. It's not fair for them to be masked in school. It's not fair to them to get in trouble for hugging their friends. So there's a lot of consequences from what they've done. So I guess the best thing I can say is, although my job is federal, that doesn't mean as a mom I'm not going to stand up. I mean, I've never been one to follow the rules anyway. So I have no problem speaking out when there's something going on that affects my life and those around me. So if that means I'm stepping on toes, well, then I guess they better wear some steel toe boots because I'm coming.
Step hard.
Maybe that's the right thing to say. Maybe that's not the right thing to say. But
no,
God,
that is the right thing to say.
Well,
No,
you know what?
right.
I'm tired of it. I'm tired of our kids. I don't know what this is all of a sudden, that they feel that they can just go after our kids. You know, we have our Ontario health official saying that well, putting the masks on kids all winter long last winter, we compromised their immune system. So they're going to have to wear masks again going into this school term because, you know, now they're going to be susceptible to the respiratory virus and all of that. And that really angered me as a parent. So I am definitely with you on that. Just because my job may be federal, that does not mean I'm going to stand back as a parent and allow these things to keep happening with our children. And again, if that means I have to step on some toes, well, they better get their steel toe boots out. Does that help?
Well, and I think as well,
Yeah.
if I could, I think as well, even though the schooling system is provincial, the federal government does have some pull with the provinces. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of money that is changing hands and things. So if we recognize that Liz will have an opportunity within the federal politics to make an impact on the provincial as well. Because the things that are passed will make a difference as far as what the provinces are able to do. Max says no more lockdowns. What does that mean if the provinces have the power to do it on their own and Max doesn't have any say? So what we know is that the federal will have, and certainly the fight for our children is one that needs to be very vocal at every stage of the game, every position within politics. The fight for our future, for our children's future, needs to be there. I personally have a very big difficulty with school. Our Liberal government made a shambles of the past Liberal government, provincial, made a shambles of the school, made it very difficult for kids. Children are suffering mental breakdowns because of all of the garbage that was brought in during the Liberal government. So we have to, as a federal party, be able to do something to kick in protection for the family.
Thank you very much, Joseph. That was very nice. Liz, you had one more comment you wanted to say?
I actually just have another question for Raman. Am I saying your name right, Raman? Okay. Would you be able to, because you came from Iraq and in a totalitarian type government, what patterns are you seeing that are similar to what you experienced back then because you said you're afraid that we're going in that direction. So what patterns do you see so that we can learn? I would like to learn from you.
Absolutely, yeah. There are many examples, starting with the propaganda, TV propaganda and the media. It's very, very similar. Freedom of speech is another thing. Obviously, I am always being careful and following what we've seen over there for people who spoke up. My brother was a political prisoner who spent around 4 years in prison, torture and all that, and then he was sent to the war, and then that's a long story. Let's stick with the political prisoner. My brother was a political prisoner because the party that he was in was an opposition of the ruling party at that time. So yeah, a whole bunch of them, they were in prison. For me personally, as a minority in Iraq, I suffered being from a different religion and had a different language. And the government enforced those things, like the religion and one language, on people who spoke different languages. So just to let you know, my original language is Aramaic, which is closer to Jesus' language, close to Hebrew.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right. Another thing is traveling restriction. So it's happening now between provinces, which is exactly what happened in Iraq. for many, many years between provinces. If you need to travel, you need to show your document, where you're visiting, why you're traveling. Every single person has to stop between provinces. And freedom of relocating, like we didn't have that thing. We couldn't move from province to another province. We couldn't leave the country. We were prisoners in our country. It was exactly what's happening now. We can't travel anywhere. There's many, many restrictions. That's exactly it's happening here. What else? I guess mainly it's freedom of expression. And I think we're a little bit on a slippery slope in Canada here. And I would never think that we'll come to such meeting and speak unless I feel that we are going to that direction. So
Wow.
that's, yeah.
So you're saying, Raman, Bill C-30 and Bill C-10, these bills where it's you either, anything can be deemed as hate speech or anything can be deemed contravening the government narrative becomes under the microscope. You've seen that. You've seen those things happen. And this is what you're seeing as the pattern.
Well, if this happens here, absolutely we can. If we cannot speak our mind, obviously we have to respect others. But I don't know what kind of law will restrict people speaking their mind. I mean, it's hard to enforce, and I guess they have the will to do it. Obviously, I'm not going to vote for any politician would implement such policy.
Ian,
excuse me, Raman.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ian.
Yeah.
Do you want to go in?
I want to take it in a little different direction. Raman, you can actually make a significant contribution here. And I would say the first thing to do is understand the PPC platform. And if you're in agreement with it, especially in contrast to the next closest, which is conservative, but they're really kind of liberal light. If you really believe in it, there are certain things you can do. And again, it's what you're comfortable with. You can take a lawn sign. Not everybody wants to have that kind of expression of their beliefs visible to their neighbors. But if you're comfortable, you can take a lawn sign. That helps. If you have some time and you're inclined, there may be some things you can do in Liz's campaign. But probably the most significant thing you can do, you are from a persecuted minority, and I assume that you have friends, possibly family in town that have a similar background. These are people, if you do, that you can quietly talk to them about what you're finding out about the PPC and see if you can draw them into it too. That's a huge contribution if you feel comfortable and are able to do it.
Well, absolutely. I feel comfortable doing such thing. Mainly the lawn sign. My wife actually, she was asking if she can get one. I have the end lockdown sign. I think it's a great thing that to express ourselves, especially we can express ourselves beside in our property, beside front of our property. Fortunately, I don't have a huge community in Chatham. I don't know many of my community here. I've been here 2 years. I don't know anyone actually. Maybe there's only one family. Yeah, but
well, you have a family now. By the way, you have a family now.
Thank you. I think you are my second family for sure.
Yes.
Last election, I did vote for PPC, and the election before, I did vote for Harper. Obviously, things changed since Harper. So,
well, he dumped them.
Yeah,
Rob,
yeah.
sure
Things are
your address so that you can get that started
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Okay?
We'll definitely request that.
Mr. Howes, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, I found the speaker button. Yay. So what we can see is what we're looking at firsthand from Raman is mechanisms of control. The mechanism of limiting travel, that's an old tried and true method. The method of censored speech, we know that that's an old tried and true method, and it works very well because speech is communication. Words are the building blocks of ideals that we disperse to each other. But the situation is kind of the same and kind of not the same. It's almost ethnocentric where Raman, is that it? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Raman?
Yes. Yeah.
It's almost ethnic centric. In other words, when you look at a crowd of people, you don't see a lot of distinction between them. They're pretty homogenous. So it looks like the division, as in here in Canada, which I'll get to, has been ideological. That's the division again, and it's an invisible line. And where Raman comes from too, because they're all pretty much, everybody looks alike. It's been harder to separate them. So what they've used is, again, religion. In Canada, it's supposed to be a country where church and state are separate. And by the amount of Christian churches burning, yeah, they're very separate. Sorry about the joke. But so it's interesting that it's going to be slightly the same and slightly different. That one thing where they separated the people because of their religion was interesting. Raman, the people that were there, I'm going to make an assumption, correct me if I'm incorrect. The two religious political groups we're talking about are Christians and Muslims, followers of Islam, correct?
Yeah.
Yes? And so naturally, as everyone's well aware, Egypt, all over the Middle East, that the Christians are a minority, correct?
Correct.
We know that anybody who doesn't know, they should know that the Canadian government has been gracious enough to allow 10% of their quota of refugees to be Christians from the Middle East. 10%. Oh my goodness, isn't that wonderful of them? But so the whole point is, did you notice in the crowds of people around you, was there any discernible, it may seem frivolous, but again, we're talking about the government using one group of people as a tool against another, which I'll get to. Did the majority of the Christians shave, or were they bearded? Were the majority of the Muslims bearded, or were they shaven? Was there any noticeable difference?
You mean back home or here?
In appearance, back home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. For Christian minority, some places they couldn't get government jobs, and they will have. Well, obviously, we don't. Our appearance is not much different than the rest of the Iraqi people, but in some places you can easily point us out, especially for us as a minority. I'm sorry, my wife is adding some comments here.
To be specific, why I bring this up was because prior to the Cultural Revolution in China, there was the Han Dynasty and there's the Qing Dynasty. And the Han Dynasty actually demanded that the Qing Dynasty people shave off the front of their hair. So again, I was wondering, was there any visible difference between the two groups?
I know what you mean. Okay, but so that actually happened in Iraq, but not while I was there. That happened mainly recently, around after the fall of the government. More than 1 million Assyrians, which what we call ourselves, or Chaldean, left Iraq because of the religious, I would say, discrimination in Iraq. So yes, a lot of whoever remained there, they were forced to wear the traditional Muslim outfit, and in some areas they were more free, like northern Iraq. In other areas, they were forced to either adapt, pay something they call, it's like a protection tax. They call it jizya, but it's something to protect you if you want to remain Christian. Otherwise, you can convert or pay taxes, basically. Yeah, so that's not the government policy. That was mainly like whoever was in control of that area. But generally, as a minority, it was not easy to live around there, especially the last couple of years.
Thank you from it.
Yeah.
You've shared so much of I'm going to say your personal life with us tonight. And I know it can be extremely difficult for you to go through those things again.
I have a question, Nick.
What's that?
Don Folk, go ahead. Question.
Oh, okay, Don, go ahead.
This is to Liz. And Rahman, shukran for your information. Shukran.
Oh, you're welcome. We say basim in our language, but I understand shukran too.
Very good. Okay. So Liz, I'm sure you're fully aware that the federal government, along with Moderna, have announced to build a facility in Canada. And I guess, from a financial perspective, the debt of Canada is spiraling out of control, right? Mm-hmm. So just your thought on that, and, specifically around Moderna and government of Canada providing some funding to make that happen.
Yeah. So I saw that come out today. Federal government's going to be putting forward federal funds, in other words, taxpayers' dollars, to help Moderna build a facility to produce vaccines. Personally, I find this disgusting. Moderna has made billions of dollars just on the COVID-19 vaccine. I don't understand why Canadians who have been put in a bad financial situation, I'm not sure why their tax dollars should go towards funding a multi-billion-dollar company. Why can't they pay for their own facility? I don't get this at all. This makes zero sense to me. And I thought we were already had a vaccine facility in Canada that was supposed to start producing vaccines. I thought that was already something that was going on. So what happens to that company now? So
wasn't there a Canadian company that was trying to get government support and was unable to?
There was a Canadian company that tried to get support, and unfortunately, they got backburnered, basically, by the Liberals, because they were trying to make the deal with Moderna and with Pfizer. Now, when we first started this whole pandemic thingy, and then all of a sudden there's this vaccine, at that time, economic critic from the Conservative Party, Pierre, who I can never pronounce his last name because I'm not that French, asked if we had acquired the rights to manufacture when we made the deal. Justin Trudeau said no, we hadn't. And the first thing out of his mouth was, what sort of fool makes a deal to acquire a vaccine without manufacturing rights? Because they're always going to be in short supply, because that's how they make more money. Now he's making a deal with Moderna to try and bring a facility to Canada to manufacture here, when we should have been doing that 18 months ago. So it looks like, and this, I'm going to take this word from Terry Pedwell from Canada Press. It looks like the deal was done 18 months ago. We just see it come to fruition now.
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate.
Well, this is another example of the way the Liberals do business. Remember again when this wonderful pandemic, scamdemic, all started. The PPEs, personal protection, off to China they went. We were all out of it, and finally people realized, the government, hey, we don't make any of the stuff we need anymore. So we've got these long waits as it sails across the ocean to us. They decided, yes, we are going to make them in Canada, and they selected a company in Quebec. What a big surprise that was. And they gave them, what was it, 11 million, I think it was, to start. And then we find out, it was leaked to the press, this company didn't even have the factory built. So again, this is the way the Canadian Liberal government has continued to do this business, unfortunately. I don't know whether anybody else saw it, but I saw it on the internet. Somebody leaked on Twitter. I know I'm not on Twitter, but I'm on the internet. And what the leaking was it was one of the companies, I think it was actually Pfizer's agreement with the government of a small country called Sardinia. And what it was it was basically a standard legal form that the company uses and between themselves and users. And you check off boxes which apply to you. One of the most odious things was at the bottom. There was a whole bunch of boxes that related to conditions once you were in business with them, i.e., you can use no other. If you wonder why any speech about hydrochloroquine, about ivermectin, about any other treatment than the mRNA vaccines was quashed so quickly, if every country's agreement is like the one with Sardinia, one of the parts of the agreement was you cannot use any other treatment at all. You use this treatment and that's it. So I don't know what our agreements are like. As we find out with the Chinese inquiry, it's highly doubtful anybody in the government today will ever see the agreement that was signed with Pfizer between the government of Canada.
It's one of the reasons why when you go to get your vaccine, they ask you if you've had Moderna or Pfizer so that they can keep the line straight. Because at that point of time when we made the deal, it was you could not cross the vaccines. So that's part of what you're seeing. Also, you're also seeing, too, why we have only certain treatments for cancer over here. But if you go to Europe, there's like umpteen different types of treatment for cancer. And that usually relates to, again, pharmaceutical deals with the country. Who had the next question? Who was looking to ask one?
Oh.
Joseph?
Yes. Liz, when we look at what's been going on with the government restrictions, the lockdowns, the shutting of churches, arresting of pastors, etc., is there anything in Max's agenda that you know of that will strengthen our Constitution so that we can actually battle this? I mean, I know that a lot of the court cases have been pushed away by what I would consider to be unscrupulous judges. So is there anything in Max's agenda that will strengthen our stand so that we have a leg to stand on?
I think that's a really great question. I haven't heard anything specifically on strengthening the Constitution, our Charter of Rights, or anything like that. Honestly, I think really what it comes down to is having a leader that will at least honor it. And
well, the problem comes down to, like I said, unscrupulous judges who just say, no, I'm not going to hear that case. And,
right.
And leaving us no recourse in our own defense and protection.
Right. But if you already have a leader who has ethics and morals, it trickles down from there, right? I mean, if we didn't already have the people at the top being unethical, unmoral, unjust, confusing in the information that they give its citizens, encouraging others to lock down its citizens, being okay with pastors being arrested in the middle of the highway, this trickles down, right? So if you stop that right at the top, then it's not going to trickle down. We need strong leadership. We need people in these leadership positions that have morals and ethics. When we have that, the charter is going to stand. The Bill of Rights is going to stand because your own leader believes in it.
And Maxime Bernier has also said that if we do see these types of judges that are just saying, no, I'm not going to be hearing this case, I'm going to abstain. We do have in our Charter of Rights as well the power to remove those judges. And Maxime Bernier has said this is going to stop.
Yeah. I mean, he's made it clear where he stands on that, right? I mean, he's been touring around saying no more lockdowns. Freedom is number one. he doesn't stand for any of this stuff. He doesn't believe in shutting down businesses. And you can't just take somebody's freedom away without having proof that that's appropriate. So meaning you have to prove that that person is going to cause significant harm to somebody. That's the only way you can take somebody's freedom away. But they haven't done that. Nobody's been able to provide that proof. But when you have the leaders from the top down being okay and not standing up for the people and just letting the people have their rights and freedoms taken away, encouraging to take them away. Let's be real. What has Justin Trudeau done all of this time? He's said himself that rights and freedoms can be taken away in order to keep everybody safe. He chooses safety over freedom. And that's not ethical. So it does trickle from the top down. I do believe that. And, you know, when you have a leader at the top who believes in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, then that's going to trickle all the way down.
Well, just to further clarify what you've said there, Liz, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, saying that Justin and, well, all the leaders, O'Toole and Singh, are making us choose between safety and freedom. Do you think that's fair?
It's not fair. And why can't we have both? The Prime Minister's job is to keep the country safe and free. We are a free country. His job isn't to take away people's right to a livelihood. His job is not to lock people down and keep them in their homes. That is not his job. That is not the job of our premiers. They're supposed to keep our borders safe and keep us free. And they're not doing that. None of them are doing that. None of them have that as a priority. They keep saying, keep us safe. Safe from what?
And by making us choose, do you think that they are in a way trying to enslave us?
Well, you know, without sounding like a, conspiracy theorist, because I've been called that enough times, it's exactly what it is. Without freedom, you're a slave. It's not, there's no gray area there. You're either free or you're not. And if you have to show papers to go eat out for dinner, you're not free. If you have to show papers, a proof of vaccination to get back into your country, you're not free. If you have to show your papers to go to another province, you're not free. Plain and simple. There's no gray area when it comes to freedom. You're either free or you're not. So again, staying focused, we're either free or we're not, and I choose freedom.
Well, the way I see it in the last year and a half is we are being controlled by the means of the fact that, I mean, if you do anything wrong, you're punished. You know, like, I mean, I remember going to a park here and watching some kids play Frisbee. A week later, the park was closed. And I have saw on the internet young kids on skateboards skating with their skateboards and the police finding them. Like, that is such control.
That happened in Peterborough. As a matter of fact, it was Peterborough police that
it's disgusting. I'm the big conspiracy theorist as far as everybody in. I have gone through so much crap with people posting stuff to make them see all the negative things that are happening. And it's socialistic, it's communistic, and it's wrong. And
Sharon, didn't one of those kids get taken down by one of those police officers
Yeah,
too?
but 10-year-old kid, he actually got taken right off his skateboard. The police actually
oh,
took
is
him to
it?
the
Yeah,
ground.
I mean,
And it was very, very, it was disturbing.
Yeah.
There was a number
when
of
I look at
parents
all
there and
those
everything.
type of things that are happening and all this control, and now a lot of the police are at least not. Well, even when Ford said, okay, if you're traveling, there's going to be stop checks from the cops, and the cops, they finally said no.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Everybody has been controlled, even the cops, because they're afraid of losing their jobs, for God's sakes.
It was very good in Peterborough because there was 2 other police officers that actually removed the one police officer from the child and said, "What do you think you're doing?"
Mm-hmm.
So there was two police officers that actually had common sense that intervened, which was good. Raman, did you have another comment or question that you had?
Yes, I have a question for Liz. So O'Toole recently, O'Toole recently said that there's another wave coming and it's not safe for election. So, and I don't know if there is an election. Everybody's talking about the election. So what would you say about O'Toole's comment, or the Conservative?
Okay, yeah. To me, they're cowards, first of all. I mean, come on. Are you telling me that right now we can go out to a restaurant, there's so many things that we're allowed to do now, right? So,
Right.
But going to a polling station is dangerous? Come on. Doesn't make sense. No, they're scared. They're scared because he's scared he's going to lose. Because he will. He'll lose. People have lost faith in the Conservative Party. They are not happy. They are not acting like conservatives anymore. They are liberal light. Let's be real about that. So O'Toole is scared to go to the polls because he knows what's going to happen. He knows what's going to happen during the election. So he's using COVID as a front to say, oh, it's not safe right now. Well, okay, well, then why are we in restaurants? Why are we living life right now then? Which I, condone 100%. We should be living life. It is not dangerous to go to an election station and put in your vote. That is not dangerous to do. So for any of them, even Jagmeet Singh is doing the same thing. He's a coward too. Plain and simple.
How do you all feel about what's happening in in Calgary now?
What happened in Calgary?
Well, everything is open.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Alberta.
All the restrictions.
Alberta's open. Everything's lifted. I saw pictures of a completely packed place. People
It's about time.
Themselves. What's that?
It's about time.
Yeah, no, it
My
is.
son just came back from British Columbia, and all the way across they drove, and all the way across the country, everything was opened, with the exception of Ontario. When they went to the Edmonton Mall, he said people were shoulder to shoulder, and you saw very, very few masks. So across the country, things are opening up, but they're not open here in Ontario.
And again, that's a provincial thing that we have to address. But
BC was open.
I have something to add about that. Like we were talking about how the provinces have been impacting our liberties, and that the federal government haven't even touched it. So what's going on with that is Justin Trudeau at the beginning of the lockdown said he was not going to take that and invoke the War Measures Act or whatever and shut down the Charter of Rights. So he was too chicken to do that. And so he left it to the provinces to all squabble on that. Well, our charter and our constitution is all federal legislation and federal documentation.
Yeah.
So if the provinces are crossing that, then our federal MPs have every ounce of authority to slap down the provinces on it, because that's not provincial legislation, that's federal.
I honestly, I feel like it's just it's a tactic by Justin Trudeau. It makes him not look like the bad guy, right? But you can't tell me for 1 minute that he hasn't influenced any of that. I don't buy it. He's a coward too. He's another coward. I'll throw that word out all day long.
I'm with you on that. And then
yeah, he always makes it seem like he's the good guy, right? That's the picture he likes to portray. He's the good. He's not gonna be the bad guy. He's the good guy. He's the hero. He's the one doing this, right?
Well, that's like he's close right now with the new vaccine. I mean, if you follow all these people that are looking at him as, yes, oh, this is great. They're not looking at what it's going to cost them as a Canadian. They're so blinded by the way he does everything in his
propaganda and the way he portrays himself.
Yes, you guys know how to speak much better than I do.
I just want to add one thing, please.
That is a perfect point, Sharon. I want to know how much extra Trudeau had to pay for these vaccines because he dropped the ball in the first place. I want to know how much extra he's paying for these vaccines. Not he, our country, our taxpayers. How much extra are we paying for these vaccines because he dropped the ball in the first place?
Was it Raman or was it Bernito that had?
I just wanted to add something on the response. Liz's response. So I guess for the PPC, this is the ultimate test. I don't think any time ever in history that we needed a party like a PPC to show the difference between the conservative and the liberal, and New Democrat. And if this is the ultimate test for PPC, and I think this is the time for PPC to shine. It's our freedom. It's on the brink. I think this is a good opportunity as well for PPC to grow, and I'm definitely supporting you and PPC.
Thank you.
You said, Richard, you said you're going to repost this?
Just as an aside here, I'd like to throw this out to you. According to the latest, now this is Nanos poll, which came out on Sunday. They're saying right now 31% for the Liberals. Okay, they're down. They're saying 28% for the Conservatives. They are down.
Amen.
Okay. NDP are sitting at about 23%. They're up.
Wow.
Other is, 3% for the Green Party. They got listed. Now it's 13%. And this is what are they saying? They're saying 2 to 4% leeway. But about 13% for other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, again, I believe there's maybe 22 different legalized parties in the country. Most of them would garner 0.06 or 0.01%. The only one that's really can be seen to have an increase is the People's Party of Canada, and they refuse to continue to list them. I don't know why, because the last poll that I saw, which was a Gallup poll that actually mentioned the People's Party of Canada, was 3 weeks ago, and we were sitting at 8%. And now other is at 13.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's your cancel culture.
An analyst, okay, would look at that and probably say it's the majority of that is the People's Party of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are the only ones that are actually actively doing things right now. I have had people come to me and say, you have a PPC sign on your front lawn. I go, yes. Is that not outside of the rules of electoral candidacy?
What?
Because the election rate has not dropped. Campaigning is, quote, legally illegal right now. Okay. But because it doesn't have a candidate's name on it, that's how you get around it, by having your sign, because it doesn't.
Exactly. It's simple advertising.
Right.
No, Nick, I got a reply from Elections Canada
Okay.
today, maybe it was
Good.
yesterday,
Thank you.
stating that there are no restrictions on campaigning outside of the election.
Oh, okay. So that
None
has
at all.
changed then. Okay. That's good to know because that helps Liz as well. So if you are getting signs, don't think, now we know Ian has clarified it for us. There is no ramifications.
Okay. Well, I've already got over 150 out there, so.
Right. They're all generic signs right now anyway. They're not really saying
Don't have
a
any on them.
candidate's name, which that was the clause that I used prior to. But since Ian has clarified that now with Elections Canada, we know there is no quote campaign period that people have to adhere by. So that's always good to know. Next person with a point or question.
Wait. Can I just say something about the polls? Wait, can I just say something about the polls real quick?
Yes.
If you guys don't mind. I want the people out there to understand, because you had said that the NDP seemed to be growing. And I mean, by all means, of course, I'm about freedom, vote however you want. I want people to understand, because for a brief period years ago, followed the NDP for a while, they seem to say all the nice things, and, you know, they dangle a lot of carrots in front of people's faces. There's a lot of stuff they want to give away, but let's just keep in mind, we're already in debt so bad that my grandchildren will still be paying for it if something doesn't happen, or things could get way even worse than that. So let's just keep in mind, by voting NDP, the spending will be even worse than where we're at right now. That is absolutely insanely dangerous.
Also keep in mind too, that the NDP were broke, and it was the Liberals that bailed them out.
Right.
All that campaign money from the last election had to get paid back, and they didn't have it. But the Liberals bailed them out. So think about that when people start talking about the NDP and saying, oh, well, it's, you know, the NDP or does really. And how much of that is Liberal money thanks to that bailout? And do you really think they're going to bite the hand?
How many policies have they agreed with the Liberals on because of that?
Right. Are you going to bite the hand that feeds you? The major media. Are you going to bite the hand that feeds you because of the bailouts? No, you're not. When you get $600 million, is of course Line 5 in the pipelines. It's huge on our platform. It's huge in Sarnia, especially because, I mean, we kind of live off of that pipeline. Again, the negotiations between our ambassadors now through the Liberals and our counterparts on the other side of the Blue Water Bridge and on the other side of the Windsor Bridge are dicey at best right now. So how we handle those issues, I think, are very important for our area, as you know, whether it's Sarnia, Lambton, or whether it's Chatham-Kent. I think Line 5 is a huge issue that should be addressed, and I think the travel issue right now, how it was handled, whereas Americans can come here, but we can't go there. One-way street on both bridges, on both borders. I think that's a huge thing. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Rick to remain the moderator for the remainder of the time we have. I thank you, Liz. I got all the confidence in the world with you. I do.
Thanks, Nick.
Really have yourself a good night, folks. I have to reprogram 2 radio stations. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Nick.
Bye, Nick.
Okay, so do you guys want to talk about Indigenous issues first?
I would like to actually open the floor on that topic and the abolition of the Indian Act. So this is something that Pudo Sr. and his officer of Indian Affairs, which was Kretchan at the time,
you're referring to the white papers.
Yeah, they had moved to try and do that, and that did blow up quite disastrously at the time. Canadian Council of Chiefs or something were dead set against it. So it's something to kind of keep in mind.
I just
So what?
sorry
Go ahead,
to interrupt.
Roman.
I'm just gonna have to go at this moment. I just want to mention one thing that we have confidence in the new Liz, and regardless of what they're saying about the leader of the party, is the party what matter? It's what's the policy of the party and the principle of the party is what matter.
Yeah.
So it's not always about the leader of the party. They can come and go. The important thing is the local representation. And again, I wish you the best. And nice to meet you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Roman.
Roman, if you want a lawn sign, make sure you send an email back, and someone here will get it, and we'll make sure that we get one out to you. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Anybody else have comments on First Nations issues?
Yeah, I've researched a little bit on it. So the Indian Act is just an overall document which is really to guide the unification of all the treaties that were signed provinces had with the tribes in their area. We already know that BC has it put forward to strike down the Indian Act in favor of UNDRIP, UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. This is odious. We know that it's not just the sitting government, it's actually every government before them for like about 100 years that dropped the balls on this. How do we know they dropped the ball on this? Because the indigenous people, the First Peoples, they occupy two sets of lands, the reservations and the unceded territories. Just by that title, unceded territories, what that means is not agreed upon. And so we've had like 70 years plus where each government that was sitting in Canada just kept putting this on the back burner, putting it on the back burner. That was a very good point by Brendan. Brendino 99. Sorry,
it's Brennan.
Yeah, it's Brennan. Sorry.
It was an interesting point because what Trudeau Sr. and Chrétien were trying to do was to stop this nation within a nation. I don't know whether they had plans for utter control of resources, but it looked like they were trying to stop the nation within a nation. Now that UNDRIP has been dropped in Canada, and it looks like BC will probably take it up, we've already seen that they've acquired how many acres, million acres of land the First Peoples have. Another thing, the quality of water. So most of us, myself included, I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it. And what I know right now is on the land that's considered the reservations, this is governed by primarily the Band Council, which is elected. When we speak of the unceded lands, that's governed by the chiefs and matrons. Now, I balk at this because this is, again, light years away from being a democratic institution. It's father-son, it's mother-daughter. But anyways, example, the Wet'suwet'en Nation out west, when they had problems and the government finally got off their butt and was negotiating with them, they again held it up by wanting to negotiate or ask advice of the Iroquois in Ontario. So again, this points out what is eventually going to happen if we're not careful. There are going to be areas of Canada which a small group, 5% of the population, will govern. And this will be right down to what happened to the Keystone Pipeline. The government bought it hoping they could pump it through, but nope, they were held up and stalled, and finally it was canceled. So there are some problems. I'm a brave fellow. We know that it's again, is it a distraction or is it a main point? Not to insult anybody, we're speaking of a group that makes up like 5% of the population. I agree human rights are important, but is this or is this not a democracy? And is it or is it not majority rule?
This is a rabbit hole. There would be one huge mistake for Maxine to go down. If he goes down that one, he ain't coming out the other side. There's too many other major issues that he has to deal with, big ones like supply management. He just needs to get elected. He doesn't need to solve all the world problems in the first attempt.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those those problems I'm not going to even come close to solving once elected, right? I represent Chatham-Kent-Leamington. When you look at the platform as far as Indigenous issues go, it's kept pretty simple. Honor the treaties, get clean drinking water, for crying out loud, to these people. At least do that. And then, it talks about getting the money where it needs to go. When we're funding to help out the Indigenous people, get that money where it needs to go. Especially when you're talking about clean drinking water. Actually, how about putting in the infrastructure that's needed to get the clean drinking water to them? Don't just hand somebody a lump of cash and hope for the best. You got to be responsible for where that cash goes. So that part is pretty simple. I like that. And it's going to take decades to get that relationship working between the Indigenous people and government, because they went so many years of not being able to trust the government. So I think we can kind of relate to that.
I have a question in regards to Aboriginal voting rights in Canada. So Chatham-Kent-Leamington, is that going to incorporate Moravian Town and Walpole Island?
Not Walpole Island, Moravian Town. Walpole Island, is that Lambton, Kent, Middlesex?
I think so.
Yeah, that's not me.
Okay.
Yeah, I only go like along the river, and then in Chatham, we lump around kind of the border of Chatham and then back to the river again. So I'm not even Mitchell's Bay. I'm not even that area. Like, I'm not even that area. I'm not even Pancor.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just wondering what that was going to look like.
Yeah. So yeah, we have Moravian Town as far as I can tell.
So moving on, are there any other issues? One that pops into my head, and we keep coming back to COVID, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are right now with regard to vaccine passports.
That's a big fat no for me. Plain and simple. I have no problem with a certificate that proves that you've had your vaccines. I have no problem with that. What I do have a problem with is being forced to show that in order to live a so-called free life. It's
so
not.
What do you mean you don't have a problem with
Well, like any vaccine you get your little card and you check it off. Like, they check it off for you and sign it, right? Like every vaccine. I had one for the kids when they got their vaccines, right? A little card, they did the little check marks and signed it and dated it and all of that stuff. Well, from what I've seen, when people get their vaccine, they show a little certificate, right, that they got their vaccine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But I don't think that people should have to show it to go into another province. They shouldn't have to show it to go to the movie theater or to a concert or out to dinner. Those things, we can't control what other countries do. So you may have to show it to, go to Africa or whatever, you might. We can't control what other countries decide to do, but we can control what our country is doing. It is wrong. This vaccination, it's an interim order. It's not even approved for general use. It is an interim order based on an emergency. So
it's experimental. That's what it is.
Well, I don't understand how you can mandate something that is not even approved for emergency use. And it would still be wrong, even if it was, just for the record, it would still be wrong to have to, I don't want to live in a show me your paper state. I don't want that. That's not freedom. That's not freedom. So no, absolutely no vaccine passport.
So Liz, we have some new people here tonight. And the time is marching on here a little bit. How can, if people like what they're hearing from you tonight, how can people here help or get involved or support freedom?
Okay, so definitely follow me on Facebook, Liz Valley, and I'm on Twitter, Liz Valley PPC. I'm on Telegram, but I don't really use it that much, to be honest. And I'm on TikTok, but I hate it. So I am not a fan of TikTok so far. The other ways, reach out to me. Follow me on Facebook. I do a lot of posting there. We have our People's Party of Canada Chatham-Kent-Leamington page on there. We have our website, ppc Chatham-Sarnia.com. I got that right? We have our webpage. So those are some areas that you can find me. Reach out to me, private message on any social media outlet. And then from there, if we need to be in further contact, I'll send you my email, my cell phone, all of that. My email is LIZ_THEEND@outlook.com, if you can catch all that. Otherwise, just send me a message on social media. I will get back to you. And I welcome all the help. And
can you say your email again slowly?
LIZ_THEEND. THE. Thomas. H. Elizabeth. Nicole. I'll say David. My last name was Dozwa before I was married. It's at the end at outlook.com. So it says the end. Did you get that? So that's my email. I welcome all emails. I'm not afraid to give out my email address. The big thing for all People's Party of Canada supporters is to just really talk about the party, get the party out there, support the party, talk about the party, yell it from the rooftops. That's the best thing we can do. Promote the brand, because the brand represents freedom. It's again, the most important thing that we need to fight for right now, because without it, we have nothing.
They can also make donations through the Electoral District Association right now, and they can do that at the website, ppcchatham-sarnia.com. There's also a new website for Liz specifically that is up. It's 90% finished, and that is through the riding name, which is Chatham-Kent-Leamington ppc.com. But either way, donations can be directed to the Electoral District Association through those websites.
Can I just make a comment, Rick?
Yes.
Since I'm the money guy?
Yep.
Okay. So everyone, thank you for joining the call tonight. Obviously, it will take money to run a campaign. So any amount that you donate, there is a tax deductibility on your income tax. So now, unfortunately, I don't have the federal numbers memorized, but there is, and if you want, I can certainly send you the information. But you will, so for every dollar, you get a tax credit on your taxes. So it will not cost as much as it would dollar for dollar. So yeah, so we do need money in order to run the campaign. I know Liz probably doesn't want to ask you for the money, but I will ask for the money. We do need money. So if you can donate, greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks,
There is
bye.
there is a fundraiser coming up through the EDA, and Liz, maybe you can speak to that.
So there is a fundraiser coming up Friday, August 20th, and it's going to be at USB, the Ultimate Sports Bar. And it's going to be a dinner. It's going to be barbecue style, chicken and ribs. It's going to be so good. They do an amazing job with barbecue. So yeah, August 20th. Oh, there's also going to be a silent auction there. So lots of opportunity to have fun and donate to the party.
Where's
I'll be
that?
there with USB. So Ultimate Sports Bar. It's on St. Clair. Do you remember where the old Legion was? It's on St. Clair Street where the old Legion was, in the Taco Bell area there. So there's going to be lots of opportunity for fun and donating money. And also there'll be a silent auction. So, you know, at least you have a chance to walk away with something cool. And I'll be there to answer questions, to talk to everybody. I will be speaking that night as well.
What time is it?
Cocktails start at 6. Dinner starts at 7.
And we will send out an email to everyone with information about that, and provide instructions on how you can purchase tickets to the event too.
Yep. So the tickets will go on sale, and like Rick said, we will be posting that information to go out. And yeah, so what you will need a ticket to come to the dinner. If we have space left, we'll allow tickets at the door, but there may not be space left.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Liz tonight?
No, not me.
No.
Did we hash everything out?
Okay. You know, everything is progressing very well. We spoke a little bit about polls, and I don't have anything scientific to share with you, but I'm trying to get the lay of the land as someone, you know, trying to help with the campaign. And I would say even a week ago, you know, what was happening locally, I was thinking we were probably around 10, maybe 20% in the polls. But there is clearly a purple wave building, and Liz is one of the strongest candidates across the country that the PPC has. And we have a real shot at winning this riding. I think we will. I'm quite confident about it, especially when people really start to get the message. As someone involved with the EDA and Liz's campaign directly, I would appeal to all of you to find some way, even if it's a small way, to support Liz and the PPC wave. You can do that in all kinds of ways, from just putting up a lawn sign, making a $20 donation, something. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can be something small. We will be having more of these online forums. And I think perhaps the next time we do this, I'll probably put it out to people and challenge everyone to invite a friend. Through exponential growth in that way, we can really build this wave to a crescendo at the moment when it will matter most, when people go to the polls. And so I would appeal to everyone to speak to a friend, even if it's just one. Send out a message to a friend on Facebook. Invite them to the next meeting. When you receive a notification that we're going to do one of these again, invite them. The link is shareable, so they will be able to request a sign in, and we can approve them and get them involved as well. Even if they're not a PPC member, we're going to open this. This was directed at people who were party members, but the ones in the future will be open more to the public, and that's what we need to do. The other thing I have come across, and it's been interesting when I've been analyzing all of the data, We're talking about, it's a conservative party, it's a this party. These labels largely don't apply as much anymore, is what I'm finding, in particular with regard to this party. And I'm finding that as I study the data, the PPC is attracting people from across the political spectrum. And it's the civil liberties issues, the issue of freedom, the issue of preserving Canada as a country in an era where our prime minister is calling Canada a post-nation state, and frankly, a post-Christian state. If you believe in Canada, support Liz. Invite a friend. Bring everyone. Get everyone involved in this purple wave, because it is building, and together we can make this happen. Let's get behind her and make a difference in this election, because it's the most important election in Canadian history. The future of the country depends on it.
I could not have said that better myself.
So with that, is there anything you'd like to say tonight, Liz, to kind of wrap up and close this thing down?
I just want to say thank you again for everybody, coming here and chatting. This was awesome. I wasn't sure what to expect, but to sit here and just have a normal conversation with people, this is awesome and very much needed. And we need more of this. I encourage you to go back to your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, and have these conversations. I think when we see, to touch on the division just very, very briefly, we see this division in this country, and it's all a misunderstanding. I can't stress that enough. It's all a misunderstanding. When you actually talk like this, like we are, you will find that you have so much in common with those people who seem to have complete opposite views of you. Now, there's the radicals out there on both sides. However, for the most part, 90% of us all have common ground. We're all kind, caring individuals. We're Canadians. So go out there and have these conversations like we had with those people, because they deserve to know what's going on here. It's a totally different environment when you come into the PPC environment. It is caring and it is loving. We come from a caring place and a loving place, not a place of division. We don't want that. So I think I'll end on that. Go back to your friends and family and have these caring conversations with them like we just had, and bring them over to the purple side.
And with that, we wrap up tonight. Thank you all for joining us. That brings everything here to a conclusion.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night, meet you all.